Hello, everybody, and welcome to Grid Talk Tuesday. This is Casey Grid Talk, episode number 33. I'm your host, Alexander Searle, and I'm going to be joined right now by my two very good co-hosts. First of all, let's bring in a guy who got to watch Texas A&M further their SEC chances against LSU this past weekend. Caleb, welcome to the
Yo,
show, buddy.
well, I appreciate it. It was a good weekend for us here in College Station. Good. Beat LSU, number one in the SEC. I wish this was a college football podcast, but sadly, Alex, we're gonna talk about go karts all day, which it was cool. Yeah, obviously not much racing going on, but yeah, I mean, we're staying entertained with some other stuff, and I'm excited for today's show. We got some cool stuff coming up.
Yeah, definitely. And we're going to keep on the football theme here. Joining me now is going to be a guy that probably knows more about sports than your favorite analyst on TV. But that being said, didn't know enough to beat me in fantasy football this weekend. Emery, welcome.
I hate everything. You know, when you start Jordan Love and he goes up against the worst defense in football and gets hurt halfway through the game, that hurts. When you start DJ Moore and he puts up a solid 5 points in fantasy, that hurts. When you leave Puka Nakua on the bench and he suddenly comes back and drops a 20 piece, that hurts. And when you lose to Alex after scoring more points than him in, I think, 5 of the first 7 weeks, you know, it hurts. But hey,
Welcome to the
we're
club.
still in the we're still in the playoffs. Hey, I don't want to hear about welcome to the club, bro. You have like the second worst team in the league.
Hey, shout out
But
Kyle. He got a win.
yeah, shout out Kyle. That's I can take solace in the fact that at least Kyle Cuthbertson has a win in fantasy football. Sadly for me, not my weekend, but it was a good weekend back at home. It was a good weekend watching football. My fantasy team didn't do well. UNC won though, so we finally got ourselves out of losing every single game. And yeah, got to watch some exhibition basketball, living life. I just can't say I'm losing to this guy in fantasy.
You're not going to hear the end of it. But that being said, I mean, we're going to get right into it. No setting the grid this weekend. Like Caleb mentioned, not a whole lot of racing action. I know we had the Max's event this past weekend, but that got postponed to November 23rd due to inclement weather in the area. So stay tuned for that. Obviously, that'll be the week after the SuperNats event. So nonetheless, we're going to get right into it here. Welcoming into the show, Mike Smith. Mike, first of all, buddy, first time on the show. I mean, welcome.
Appreciate guys. Thanks for having me. And just to continue that football theme, the worst thing that's happened to my football season is the opening of K1 Circuit. I mean, I have been so busy. Emery Puka was on my IR, and I didn't get him off. I was so busy, I didn't get a chance to check it. Oh man, I should have won all 4 leagues. I won 1 out of 4. I feel you for sure.
It's
It's
brutal.
it's tough when you're opening a new facility and you're as busy as we are. So fantasy football taking a strike, but we're rolling here in karting.
It's a good problem to have. Let's get
Indeed.
right into it, Mike. I mean, first of all, before we get into discussions that we have planned today, I mean, give the viewers back at home kind of an idea of who you are, what you do, and what got you into karting.
Oh, what got me into karting? Want to be in a race car driver since I was 5 years old. Long story short, didn't do that, but did find karting and did a lot of that when I was a kid. I got started with my parents got me in a kart when I was 12. Um, Started paying for it myself and figuring out how to do karting in my early 20s, and a lot of that had to do with getting into indoor karting. Started a place called Car Indoor Racing in Tigard, Oregon. My home track when I was a kid was Pat's Acres. Ran there for many years, and then again in my 20s, rolled all the way through there. Learned a bunch doing indoor stuff. Went from indoor to PGB Motorsports Park in Washington. Did that for managed that for a year before moving to CalSpeed. And then, long story short, was there for about 12 or so years before that thing shut down. Here we are, and getting a chance to take on what is a phenomenal project in K1 Circuit. Is this side of the fence, if you will. During the entire time, got a chance to drive a little bit, raced quite a bit indoor. Most of my racing in my 20s and stuff like that was indoor karting, some outdoor karting, did a little bit of car stuff here and there. But it wasn't until I got old and I became a master's driver that I really started to, quote, make a name for myself in the industry on the driver aspect, thanks to RLV for giving me an opportunity in 206s. So I've got a chance to run 206s, 100 cc's, 125 like X30. I've run SuperNats, Rock Vegas, club stuff, tracks all over the place. And got a pretty good breadth of knowledge as far as driver management, as far as coaching as well. So I'm kind of all over the place over the last 20 or so years in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, you've worn pretty much every hat you can wear at this point in the racing business. But the biggest thing that we want to talk about, I mean, you mentioned it, right? K1 Circuit, obviously the GM over at CalSpeed before that shut down, but now same sort of deal here for K1 Circuit. How did that deal with you and K1 come about?
I mean, it started with the news that CalSpeed was closing. So that place, obviously, been there a long time. Kind of, I think, made a name for myself as far as running a place that could do both competition karting and arrive and drive. And when they got the news that we were no longer going to be around starting in the 2023 year, I got a phone call from ownership, Dave Danglard, who owns all the K1 speeds, and it was like, we might have an opportunity for you. Checked it out, and it's absolutely not something I could pass up. Such a cool project, a great opportunity, and did the whole went all in. Moved with the wife and I, Becky, moved 5 minutes down the road. Moved into the house in January, built a new house, and yeah, we're rolling. It's a pretty cool deal. But yeah, I got the opportunity through David after getting a call from him, and it's been kind of a roller coaster ride, but we're open now, and man, we got a lot of potential.
Since getting the call early last year, what's been the behind the scenes like over at K1 Circuit?
A lot of construction, a lot of trying to figure out what we need to do to make all the powers that be happy, whether it be sign offs on certain permits or get these certain things done. And right now we're opening what we call phase one. And that allows us to basically do business with our rental carts and arrive and drive, competition karting on the track while we're still under construction with our larger main building. If you've ever been to a K1 Speed or seen an indoor facility, you're going to see a lobby with a pro shop. The K1 Speeds have what they call a paddock lounge. We'll have all the same stuff. That's all being built currently with a pair of meeting rooms and locker room, elevator because it's 2 stories, scoring building, all kinds of really cool stuff in that phase 2. Phase 1, what we're doing right now, it's a mile-long track, a full mile with elevation change of over 30 feet and paved paddock, plenty of space to make things happen. And it's been a lot of just dotting I's, crossing T's, finding new things as the inspectors come through and like, what about this? What about that? And just fine tuning and trying to make things happen as best we can and create a really, really cool place for karting here in Southern California.
Is there pressure in situations like that where you see people continuing to post about how excited they are for K1 and, it feels like it took a while to get in motion and finally it's been released? Was there any pressure in those moments?
It's not pressure. It's just it's challenging. It's tough when people are like, when are you going to open? When are you going to open? Since before I was part of the project, I think everything started rolling in 2018 with all that kinds of stuff. They broke ground in 2022, and you think you're rolling the right way, and then you'll have a scenario that this needs to be done to meet this need. This needs to be done to meet that need, and so it keeps moving the goalpost down, if you will, to keep that football analogy alive. And it's not pressure. You just do the best you can and try to knock things out. I mean, I'm not the one swinging the hammer, if you will. There's a lot of great people behind the scenes making things happen, and it's just trying to again dot the I's, cross the T's, get stuff done. And patience is not necessarily a Carter strong suit sometimes. They like, when are you going to open? When are you going to open? But we're open now, and luckily a lot of that stuff's behind us, and it's really, really cool to see carts going around that place.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, right? You're open now. What have kind of the vibes been like around that place with all the pro karters coming over there and giving it a whirl?
It's positive across the board. I mean, I think like you had Seth Nash on last week, and he had mentioned kind of when CalSpeed went, there was a hole kind of left here in Southern California, and it's not that there's not karting down here, but it's a scenario where you had kind of a place for the national scene to come here, and I think that even CalSpeed, to be fair, wasn't a modern track. It was a parking lot. And while we did the best we could with a parking lot track, and I would argue that maybe it was the best parking lot track outside of, a Vegas kind of scenario. This is a proper racetrack for go-karting. And to have something like that in your backyard, and anybody around the world that has a world-class, CIK style track, or your Newcastles, your track houses, anything that's just that draw. You can just you get there and you look at it and you're like, damn, this is going to be cool. And that's exactly what happens when you get on a course. And we've talked to your Billy Musgraves, your Rob Logans, that are in the shifter categories, and there's like, man, this thing is tough, And I talked to Phil Giebler the other day, and he's doing coaching and stuff like that. He's like, dude, I thought I was in shape before, and you start running this thing because the amount of on throttle time there is and the amount of load that is happening. You didn't have that with a CalSpeed or the other local tracks. So here on the West Coast, this is such a breath of fresh air. And again, going back to the episode you guys had last week about the kind of the shot in the arm for West Coast karting, and especially Southern California, I think this is going to be big.
How were those first 2 weekends wherever you guys had races there? I know you guys have had probably, I think, 2 race weekends there already.
Yeah, we had 3 race weekends, because we had a doubleheader for Pro Kart. We had Pro Kart again for the finale, and then we also had the Tri-C Club. That's the local club in the area. They had their finale as well. And yeah, I mean, they were big. The anticipation, right? This thing's been on the calendar. It's been that carrot in front of people for a long time, and there was no way you're going to keep people, out of the seat and not run those things. So when it came out, to see it go from kind of that brown haze of dirt on the track to actually seeing the black rubber going down, and hearing people go, man, I'm starting to get overstuck. You're like, wow, here we go. We got a racetrack on our hands now, boys. It was very cool. And and the racing has been phenomenal. You've got you got a racetrack here where the speeds are high, but the racing is very, very good so far.
Yeah, it seemed like for that, I think, Pro Kart weekend you guys had, a lot of people from like all over the country went out there to California. I know Jake Drew was out there, flew out from North Carolina, and a couple of other guys as well. What does it mean, I guess, for you, seeing people coming from all over wanting to go out there and make it like a bucket list track for them?
Well, I mean, Jake's from here, so
Oh, well, he's
he
California.
came back.
Yeah.
But I mean, you John Burke was out here. We had, we have several people who are out here running, and I think what's going to be interesting is that when we actually get a proper racing season underway, right? I mean, we opened at the very, very tail end of the regional and the calendar. So to already have people making an effort to come down here, whether that be from Arizona or Nevada or Colorado or Texas, or obviously NorCal, everything's a bit of a drive if you're in the area. To have everybody make an effort and have whatever it was, 170 entries or something like that for Pro Kart. I think they backed it up with almost the same thing. Their next race, 150 or some odd, whatever it was for Tri-C. People want to go racing on a track like this. And yeah, dude, I think it sets the tone. I'm really, really excited for an actual full season, a full year of racing here at K1 Circuit.
What's the draw been like? I mean, is your phone blowing up right now with series wanting to use your track?
So going back to what I just said about is late in the season, and a lot of the kind of hiccups along the way trying to get things going. I've had a few people hit me up about potential spots, but the calendar was kind of set. And as you guys know, the national calendar kind of sets the tone. So you've got, the Pro Tour, you got USPKS, you got Stars. And then from there, you've got the regionals, and then everything else starts to kind of trickle in. So the amount of dates that are non-conflict dry up fast. Right. So while I've had some inquiries, more of it's been like, I think, see what we're gonna have next year. And then
2026.
Exactly. I'm kind of thinking 2026 is the first time we'll see anything larger than our local stuff. Like Challenge in the Americas, it's a West Coast program. Pro Kart West Coast program, local Tri-C Karters, stuff like that makes sense that they would make a home because they've been here in Southern California. Beyond that, yeah, I would say 2026 is going to be the earliest. So by mid-time next year, if we don't have at least a phone call or something like that, I'd be pretty shocked.
So are you
So-
confident that you have the local base to kind of support a national series coming?
Well, yeah, Emery, because I mean, you look at CalSpeed, it already happened. A Pro Tour
Yeah.
happened in 2019, and it was a solid event on a rain-laden, parking lot track, which was notoriously absolutely crap for wet racing. Was CalSpeed, just because it being a parking lot and being a drainage field. So the fact that we've got a proper racetrack, 1 mile long, got the space, the type of racing it brings to, if you're a 125 person, I would think, yeah, not only locally do we have it, but the draw I think could be interesting, especially once people learn what type of racing we have here, and that's what happens all through 2025. Word gets out what kind of racing we have here at K1 Circuit. And I think 2026 the draw will be there.
Yeah. Do you feel like kind of the national series getting away from the West Coast a little bit over the last 5 to 6 years is more facility based? And obviously at that point, you guys kind of have the advantage of getting back into it.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're going to have big numbers, you need a place to put them, right? The facility has to be able to accept that number of entries. So that's problem number one. There's a lot of great racetracks out there that just don't have either the paddock space or the parking space or the amenities, facilities, etc. But then on top of it, you have to have a track that can accept a large number of go-karts, right? So a mile-long circuit, we've seen on our course that 40s plus is not a problem in KA Senior, right? I think 48 is what we had on course or thereabouts at the Pro Kart race, the doubleheader there. So if you've got the space to accept the paddock and you got the space to put them on course and the racing is safe and it's good, I think that automatically makes it a draw. I think the challenge then just becomes travel, and whether or not someone wants to, or an organization wants to make that move.
Are
Do
you
you
guys close to an
suspect?
airport down there?
What?
Sorry, are you guys close to an airport down there? It's in the SoCal area, if I'm not mistaken, right?
It is, yeah. So the closest, I think, as the crow flies, would be Ontario Airport, which is the one that everybody flew into for CalSpeed, as Fontana and where the Speedway is, or is what's left of it. It was, relatively close to Ontario. I want to say John Wayne and San Diego is probably the next close. San Diego and Ontario are the two closest ones.
Okay.
Still
Do you
going to be like an hour and change away, though, as far as that drive goes.
We've seen it. We saw a little bit this year as well with certain teams. Certain classes. They maybe didn't agree with the schedule, and so they didn't want to travel that way. Do you suspect that there will be an issue when you guys eventually do go national in a couple of years' time to get that draw from the full East Coast guys?
It's a good question. I mean, whenever I've worked with SKUSA and other local organizations, Andy Says in the Challenge in the Americas, the local clubs. When I was running CalSpeed, I worked with them to build our regional calendar, essentially because CalSpeed was the core of the racing. K1 circuits can be the same exact thing. So what'll end up happening with when we build those calendars is you obviously build off of the national. So you don't want conflicts. You want to make sure it's, even if you, for instance, you could put a Pro Tour and a CKNA on top of each other because I'm saying this is in quotations. This is an example. You could, because there's the 4-stroke customer and the 2-stroke customer. But the teams, that's not how that works. So while the driver may do this or that, the team does not, right? There's some that only do one thing exclusively. So in general, it's a really bad idea. So the best thing on the planet is to not have any kind of, especially nationally, any kind of conflict or overlap, and then also have travel time and stuff like that. So for instance, if you were to put a USPKS a weekend before or 2 weekends before in Florida and expect those same people to drive the truck all the way over and be ready to go in Southern California, that's going to be a problem. So logistics is really what it comes down to. I think the track is the draw by itself. I think it's freaking awesome. And it just comes down to where does it fit in the calendar and the flow of the logistic program. I mean, obviously everybody wants to come out this way for Vegas and SuperNats and Rock and stuff like that. So going out to the West isn't a problem. Maybe the carrot is the problem sometimes.
I think you guys are opening a really good time though, right? Because we have the Colorado tracks, that are building up. Centennial, we have a track in Vegas coming up. So does that give you guys some positives heading into to next year and then obviously the 2026 season?
I mean, for K1 circuit, the stronger karting is the stronger. I mean, for all places, but for us, yeah, the stronger karting is the better, right? That we're gonna have more people wanting to go racing and funnel them straight through the gates and on track. But as far as in the industry as a whole here on the West Coast, there's no such thing as too many good tracks, right? If we get more and more things to get butts in seats and go karts, that's just what's the analogy? High tide floats all boats. That's exactly what I think it is. And if we can get more people getting into the sport, then it's going to be good for us. So having opportunities like a Spring Mountain, K1 circuit, Colorado revamping things, the West Coast is going to get stronger in options, and that makes things strong. Hey, there was a time when there was correct me if I'm wrong, back in the day, we were looking at, a national East and national West. Does that happen again? Who knows? I
I
mean,
was
the
about to
options are
ask you
starting
that.
to, yeah. I mean, I remember, I think it was Stars East, Stars West, and they all met in the middle and, or in theory in the middle. And I think it'd be pretty damn cool if we saw something like that again. And again, it'd be really cool for the sport.
How do you think that would work then, right? Because it seems like the national series, there's no East series, but because most of the teams are on the East, so most of the tracks are on the East, it's just become like an East sort of series, and you have the few West Coast teams that are forced to travel East because none of the East Coast guys want to go West. But when you have more tracks going in the West, do you think a West only national would work? Do you think the East Coast guys would go there, or would it be a smaller event?
I think it's you talk about tracks and teams. It's chicken and egg too. If you have a lot of opportunity to go racing, then it makes a little bit more business sense to be able to start a team. If maybe you've got West Coast, maybe more West Coast teams start to pop up because the opportunity to make money grows because of the options. Same thing with organizations; they've got more opportunities because there's more opportunity and more tracks out there to choose from. So yeah, I mean, look at Europe. You could drive a half hour and hit 3 tracks or whatever, right? So it's. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but to an extent. But it's. I don't know that just because you've got a couple more options, it's going to automatically have the East Coast guys come over. Because at the end of the day, those. I mean, like Seth said, they're a big team is still trying to make money in karting, and to make money, you need to have a place where people want to go. So sure, we got that box checked here for Southern California. As far as the organizations go, they go where everybody else wants to. So if it's a place where people want to go racing, if the East Coast is like, dude, that place is cool enough that, yeah, we will ship up and go. Hey, West Coasters have been going over back East because there's options, and that's where the organizations are, they're racing. But if there is a West Coast series or something like that, or a split or something like that, maybe you can start making money. You can grow something from the West Coast only, and then again, we have a little bit of that back and forth.
How different do you think the regional dynamic is between East Coast karting and West Coast karting? Because from someone that has really not been on the West Coast that much, I think one of the big differences I see is kind of the geographic space between tracks seems to be a little bit more or a little bit less densely populated than the East Coast. So how do you think that plays in?
100%. Yeah, like for instance, if you're trying to do a regional in Texas, you could what would you name it? Maybe I don't know, Texas Sprint Series or something. You could probably because they're all right there.
Series, something like that.
Yeah,
all of our tracks here are like 4 hours away from each other, so it works out nice.
And they are a level of track that it makes sense, right?
Mhm.
So you go back to the 90s or whatever, where there was tracks everywhere here in Southern California. Region 7 was the thing. That's kind of what I think. It's one of those deals where regionally, it's how long do you have to travel to get to a track, right? And that you kind of draw the circle on the map and what fits inside that bubble. There is a level in which people are going to start to bump up against the price range and the time range and things like that. So I think by default, that's kind of your biggest split when you're talking about the regional differences between East and West Coast. But to be fair, on the flip side, I have not spent as much time over there, but geographically, it does seem like they're a little bit more logistically better on the East Coast. So,
yeah. How many guys did you see coming from Colorado and like Arizona for the Pro Kart Challenge?
Well, I mean, again, not completely privy to where everybody's coming from, but I haven't seen as much from the Colorado stuff. But I think they were just opening up roughly the same time, so they kind of had their own draw going on for some of those. Scott Falcone was in the area and he was checking things out. A decent amount from Arizona. The two primary tracks over there being obviously Phoenix and Tucson, heavily populated in the wintertime with Challenging the Americas and stuff like that. But NorCal, a ton of people coming down from there, which is Sonoma they call home, and a lot of the really cool old school tracks like Prairie City and stuff like that in the NorCal deal. But again, starkly different from a K1 circuit, 1 mile high speed, medium to high speed circuit. So the draw is there because it's so different from what else is in the area.
Yeah, and Mike, one of the things that you talked about here a couple of moments ago was putting butts in seats. How is kind of y'all's rental arrive and drive electric program helped getting more drivers into asking questions and seeing the pros side of stuff as well?
I mean, when we were at CalSpeed, it was a scenario where we felt like if we were providing that outdoor rental experience that didn't exist elsewhere, right? And you know what one of our primary customer was? People from K1. K1 indoor centers fed CalSpeed on a regular basis. Well, now what you have is you have K1 Speed filtering straight into their outdoor track. So there's no like middleman. It's not like CalSpeed was working with K1. It was a natural word of mouth kind of thing. Well, now we're funneling it. You go to you'll see K1 Speed, whether it be you're on social media or on a race car, a NASCAR, with that kind of deal, and you're like, I want to go racing. Arrive and drive stuff, regardless of K1 Speed or anything else, is the best way to get new people in the sport, young new people in the sport that live in the sport for a long time, turn into lifelong karters. And the beautiful thing about K1 Speed and K1 Circuit is it is its own ladder, right? You could start in as they call the junior karts at the K1 Speed, work your way up to their adult karts, do their GP challenge stuff, and like, I want to find a little something more. You go out to the outdoor track, you try out these karts. Holy shnikes, this is a heck of a lot more than I expected. Get introduced to outdoor karting. And now what we've done is we've lengthened the life of a karter, right? Instead of it, you kind of figure it out, you can't get blown away, and maybe it's 3, 4, 5 years, which is a fairly typical new person coming in because they get blown away by either what it takes to be in it or just the level. But now you got someone living in it and working their own ladder. And the fact that K1 Speed's one of the best ways to get to the general public and introduce them to kart racing in some way, shape, or form, and they just can bring it straight over. Yeah, I think the ability to grow the sport's massive. And what I think is really cool is with the E-Pro kart that we have, it's literally a shifter chassis. That's a shifter chassis built by Wildcard, the chassis manufacturer, assembled by OTL. So you see OTL Race Division, they get all put together from Italy. It's a shifter chassis with electric motor, batteries, things like that bolted on. So it's got front brakes. The thing hauls ass. It's got all the feel that you would think. We've got a strong rental tire on it, the Sakamoto, that actually works pretty damn good for a rental tire and at that speed. And it introduces you to karting in such a way where it brings the competition level racing and the rental deal and brings it a lot tighter than it used to be with your standard rental car program. So while it's an electric motor, the speed and the way things handle and how you attack things is a lot closer than you would have in a standard rental car.
Yeah, and one of the things that actually just reminded me of something, I think my first race was actually at a K1 Speed a couple of years ago in Houston. Did that, and now to be, I guess, sitting here with you is kind of like it all just came together here, and I'm like, man, this is crazy the way it's kind of all worked out. But yeah, your point exactly. It seems like you guys do have a funnel system. So what is the plan with, like, I guess maybe incentives, like stuff that you guys could do for maybe those guys that are in a league
Scholarship.
in there, like a scholarship program? Have you guys thought about doing that, or just still kind of thinking or debating here?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm really centered on operations. We just opened
Nice.
up, and it's like run it,
Yeah.
run it, run it. But one of the other beautiful things about the K1 Speed deal is we're not just a K1 circuit is it's its own entity, but it from the back of the K1 Speed, you got the marketing team and all the different brains behind all of that. And the what about this? What about that? David Dango, the owner, has got a ton of ideas. He's very ambitious, and he centers himself around a lot of smart people. And so you bring these marketing people together. You start thinking of different stuff, and that's where their world championship came up. Another kind of carrot for your Rive and Drive Carter to kind of get rolling. As far as scholarships and stuff like that. I mean, how that all might work out as we go forward, and the synergies between competition karting and the Arrive and Drive. And again, on the ePro Kart itself, the new AEKC that they're putting together also is going to drive that whole thing. The American eKart Championship, which will debut next year. It's again, it makes it closer, that gap is not as large as it was. So how scholarships, things like that, how things might come to fruition there, not really in my purview at the time being, because I'm centered on making sure we do put more butts in seats, grow the sport, and obviously grow the facility.
That's great.
Yeah, that sounds. I didn't know about the AEKC
Yep.
championship. That's cool. I think that's really
Yeah.
gonna put, because like Caleb said, like his first race, I think mine too, many years ago, the K1, right? That's where most people start. Like I know Dalton Haynes got his start in indoor karting as
Right.
well. So, but it just gives people that extra feel of, even though it's maybe an electric cart, like you said, it's pretty badass. Like from what it sounds like, it's doing a really good job of getting people excited about karting I would assume a pretty cheap rate to do that, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just to get into the sport, as you guys know, to try to get into karting itself. You've got to buy a cart, then you got to buy an engine. It's not like it's a turnkey package from the factory floor for a lot of people. So um, giving people an opportunity to try to figure out how to getting easier, quicker is always gonna help. And in our place, you basically start out by getting a membership license. So if you are 13 years of age and up, then it's going to be and a competition carter. Then there's a silver license. If you're younger than that, it's a bronze. If you're Joe Blow off the street, never had karting experience whatsoever, you get that bronze deal. And again, $49.95, essentially off the street, never been in a go-kart. You can go out there and get this membership license. It's $49.95. First race is $39. And then you can get up to 3 for $105. So for about $150, you can get this license for the full year, get 3 on-track sessions. But the barrier to entry is so low and the experience is so high that you get a chance to just kind of go, whoa, this is pretty sweet, and start asking questions. And how can I get involved in this? Are there leagues? Are there racing? And like you guys said, your first experience was a K1 Speed, and there's people all over the country that is the immediate easiest way to figure out what karting is, right? They're going to see racing on TV, whether it be NASCAR or IndyCar or Drive to Survive or whatever it might be, and they're like, yeah, and they're like, dude, I want to be a race car driver. Head on down the road to your local indoor center, learn about K1 Speed, go play a little bit, and then they will have like, wait, what's this K1 circuit thing in California? And it just starts to grow a little bit more. If you go to our website right now, you'll see ways that you can purchase an ePro cart. You can get into that AEKC program as it pops up. So not only do we have the indoor aspect, the funneling, the ladder, if you will, to the outdoor track, but then you can keep going from there. And so what maybe seems unattainable to the new person is a lot more closer. It's a lot more in reach.
Yeah, and I know you as well, Mike, have a lot of experience with the Machismo race that used to go on at CalSpeed a while ago. What about bringing that back at K1 Circuit, maybe with the electrical carts? Or that'd be pretty cool. I feel like we don't have many endurance races like that anymore.
Yeah, 12 hours is a long time, and
Yeah,
we got to figure out how to make things last a little bit longer in the battery department. I mean, as the technology improves, more and more opportunities are going to come to us. The test I've done right now with our silver level with the rental tires is about a half hour or so. And so trying to figure out how we can improve things. And again, it's a rental cart because the batteries are heavy and things like that. And we try to do things a certain way with the longevity, how long you can go. The beautiful thing is that on a lot of electric stuff, you can feel like that the power goes down. Ours stays the same. And it dies when you don't have any power. So you don't have this loss of power where like you're getting beat by your buddy because the battery is better on this one or whatever. You don't have any of that with the new technology. But long runs, be a lot of kart swapping, my friend. I need a lot of go-karts, right? We've got 52 out here, but I'd have to have a few more to put on a 12-hour race.
True.
We got a cool comment here from David Jimenez saying, been around for a long time. The new K1 circuit's by far the best on the West Coast, if not North America. So that's pretty cool to hear, Mike, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And David's been rolling around for a long time, as said, and it's been cool to see him back in the shifter. And one of those guys that has been kind of maybe working the bugs out on his program and did get out there and play on a 1 mile. I mean, get to stretch the legs on a shifter. You can do that on a 1 mile circuit in a long straightaway like we have, about 750, 800 feet at the end of that thing. We're rolling pretty good with a shifter.
I want to stick on the electric talk a little bit. I mean, you got a chance to drive it a couple times. You've done different compounds. I mean, what do you feel about it?
Pleasantly surprised. I mean, coming from gas stuff, you just don't know what to expect. I mean, I done the indoor stuff long time ago. It wasn't a K1. It was I can't remember the company now, but it was an electric cart, and it slowed down as it went through the session. And so, you kind of like, all right, I don't know what to expect. And then I see the go-kart for the first time. So that's obviously a shifter chassis and front brakes. And you get out there and like, damn, this thing is faster than I thought it was going to be. And it stops pretty damn quick because the front brakes, even as heavy as a rental cart's going to be with the batteries and stuff like that. And we've been tuning on them and try to make them better and better and better. And we've got a great set of mechanics under our house, and we make them better. The balance keeps getting better. We keep tuning on them, whether it be us or over in Italy with OTL, and they're nimble, even with the rental tire. And we're starting to play with some competition tires that give us some more grip and will really let us kind of let the chassis work. And man, the piece is strong when we got some softer rubber on there, and it really works like a competition kart. It's a lot of fun, and but I think the first thing that's a little unnerving is how quiet it is. You usually have RPMs and motor noise that kind of gives you that little added sensory piece that you can use. And now you don't have that as much. You hear the tires and the wind noise a lot. You have the whine of the motor, but that kind of changes how you take to things at first. But the right foot, the throttle application, if you will, and how the car can kind of throttle steer and rotate through the corner is a lot of fun. And you figure out
what's the power band like?
It's a little softer than, let me say, the RPMs are lower. And just so we're on the same page, I'm no electric car expert, so I'm learning as I go. But we're like, I remember about 7,500 RPM. I don't remember. I was looking it up and I forgot to get the number, like what the equivalent horsepower would be for the different levels. But it's the way we have it mapped is on the very, very bottom. It's a little more 206-y. And so you have to be kind of smooth, but after about 15-20% through that right foot, it starts to come on pretty good. So that mid-range is real strong, and you get to the top speed relatively quick. And that top speed, especially with the softer rubber we've had and that map level, has been right around the KA. So we're real close to KA speeds when we got that again, a little bit softer rental tire and that a little bit higher power level.
That's so cool, man. After having driven it, after seeing the championships that you guys have held, do you think there's a market for it outside of your indoor guys?
Oh, absolutely. We've actually had several competition karters that are they finished their test day or whatever. They've been watching their own karts going around, and they're not slow. Even at the bronze level, they're not slow, and so they're intrigued. They go out and they try it, and every single one across the board pleasantly surprised. And they're like, "Wow, that was pretty fun. I'll have another." And they go and they do it again 2 or 3 times because it's not they're not bumper cars. They're race chassis, and so it's again with that whole gap to competition karting is so much tighter. You just got done running your CRG, your GFC, your SODI, your OTK, whatever it was. You get into this thing, you're like, no, it acts like a go-kart because it is a go-kart. It just got a different motor package to it. And yeah, there's absolutely a market for and I'd love to see, whether it be AEKC or otherwise. You guys remember back in the day that the old well, I don't know if you guys are old enough for this or not, but
He said back in the day, and I was like,
yeah.
How back are we talking?
Well, you see, back in my day, this is what we had to do. Uphill in the snow both ways, as they say. PRI had an all-star classic, karting classic that they put on the PRI show. And they would have this all-star karting drivers as well as, race car drivers. Ron Capps was a part of it through drag racing. I'd love to see that, or like maybe really old school, old Bursey stuff. That was an indoor deal with Ayrton Senna, Prost.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'd love to see that in these karts, right? And love to see your Gary Carltons and these guys that come out here and play. I think that would be pretty bitchin'. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be sick.
Emery, do you know about the PRI thing?
I'd heard about the PRI thing. I was like, I'm trying to think of when the era for that would have been because it's before my time of like being like there.
I was gonna say, I know it's good
Back
when
in the
you
day.
stump Emery. Yeah, if you stump
Yeah.
Emery, it's back in the day.
Yeah.
Go. Hey, if I'm not sure how far back the e-karting news stuff goes, but I'm pretty sure there was some coverage there, and you could check the annals of the history of karting. It was pretty cool.
Solid. I'll have to check that one out. But no, I do think that'd be a cool concept though, especially if you could get kind of everyone at a centralized location, incentivize it.
I suggest Caitlin Circuit personally. I think it's a really cool place.
I think maybe a slight bias, but I think we're all for it.
There it is. Yeah.
Central enough to me, man.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a little kart chaser session as well. Yeah,
I was thinking that. Yeah, I'm there.
Before I was like 5.5 hour flight, not the greatest, but hey, you give me in a go-kart, great things happen. So
strange how it changes a little bit. Yeah.
I was gonna say here, Mike. We all love doing rental karts after like a race weekend. I think our most recent one was actually at Trackhouse, and after like the track is rubbered in. I think we had a great battle there at Trackhouse. It was like 10 of us were in the same like 10-foot span of the racetrack, and it was a great time. But I can't imagine doing that in your guys' electrical karts that go much faster than the I guess normal gas karts that other people have.
Yeah, and one of the nice things about it too is how to keep them even, right? For a lot of what we try to do is try to work on the handling more than anything else, because like at CalSpeed, how we had a big series that it was largest in the world at the time, and to keep the karts even was so paramount because we based everything on equality. Well, you had to do that by changing jets and motor work and stuff like that. Electric, it puts out what it puts out, and so power wise they're there, they're even, if you will. And so now it's like, all right, well, we just fine tune the handling. So it really does come down to how good's the driver, how smooth are they overdriving it, and you can overdrive them. So yeah, as far as the quality goes and going out there with your buddies, weight also, this is the other part that's really neat about it, is power to weight ratio is a thing. But because of that power band, because of that mid range, it's so strong with the electric. I'm not saying it's dead equal. I'm a right around 200-pound fighting weight kind of dude. And so I'm still going to have a hard time against a 150 guy, but it's a lot closer than if I was in a gas power deal, which makes it even more fun.
One more question here. Sorry, Alex, what's the cost from, I guess, having like a full fleet of gas carts compared to y'all's full fleet of electrical? Is it more affordable, or how does it kind of go about?
I mean, to be honest, are you talking about like as an organization, like as the track itself?
Yeah. As the track itself, is it would having a full fleet of gas carts be cheaper, you think, to manage and maintain than y'all's actual electrical fleet that you guys have now? Or
Well, I
is it
gotta be
less
honest with
frequent?
you, yeah, Caleb. We've been open for like 2 weeks, mate. So I don't have
True,
the
true,
metrics to really
true.
to dial in.
Bad
But
question. Sorry.
I mean, hey, we're not buying fuel. We're not
Mhm,
buying oil. Our consumables are down, right? So that says that we're going to have less. I mean, I don't know what the electrical bill is. I mean,
mhm,
that's a thing. But I would imagine that regardless of the electrical, the charging, and things like that, you do have to, quote, have more of them. So,
mhm,
in the arrive and drive industry, we all know that to put on a, excuse me, to have a track that offers carts, if you're going to do electric, you need to have twice as many as you would for a gas if you want to have the same kind of turnaround. And it's just because of
mhm,
charge time. So if I want to put like CalSpeed, if I want 25 go karts on track, you can put 25 go karts on track and you can back it up, boom, 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 with 25 carts. That's all you need. You just need to refuel them every X amount of time. With the electric, to put 25 go karts on track, boom, 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 I need 50 because they got to go while they're charging, and the next half goes, and so on and so forth. So, arguably, the upfront cost might be a little bit higher because you need more go karts and need the chargers, right? However, once you get done with that, I would argue that it's probably going to be cheaper because your consumables are really the tires, some chains, there's still maintenance, there's still different things like that, but the tires is the primary consumable because you're not going through motors nearly as much and things like that. You don't
mhm.
have to put time in on those kinds of things. You don't have the waste, you don't have the oil, the disposables outside of the tires. So yeah, I personally do not have the experience to tell you, what the difference would be from one to the other. But on paper, certainly if we're talking about the longevity of something, I would think that, yeah, the electric's going to be a little bit better. Performance wise, it's hands down. Performance, the electric is by far the more exhilarating, the more fun thing to do.
Along with the rentals, I mean, you've seen the competition carts with electric package on it. I mean, could you see a series picking that up and running it?
Are you talking about like taking an existing chassis and bolting an electric on there? Is that what you're kind of talking about?
Yeah.
Because I mean, yeah, I have seen it. I don't know too much about it, to be honest with you. The one thing that a regular competition karting chassis is not built for an electric motor and the torque and the wear and tear
Yeah.
and blah blah blah. Right? We were already hearing about, on a standard chassis, you got to swap out that chassis after a while because if it's chassis flex, right? It's gonna the metal fatigue is gonna be there. So you add on this torque, you add on these kinds of elements that the electric has, plus the weight, and it's going to wear it faster. So the difference with the ePro cart that OTL has that we employ is the fact that it's built from the ground up. While it is a shifter chassis, mind you, it's a stiffer. It's got reinforcement. It's built for this application. And so while sure, could you take our exact components and bolt it onto a Burrell? I don't think that Burrell is going to last very long. It's gonna twist and it's gonna do things. It's not built for that kind of scenario. That's where the difference is with a purpose-built package. It's just like Sody Kart makes a competition cart. They also make a rental cart, and they don't look anything alike because of the reinforcement and things that they have to do for a rental package.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to talk to Henry whenever we get to Vegas this year, Mike. They have their I think electrical carts, so let's see how they
Right.
do it. I also saw one of them. I think the throttle stuck on one of them, and it was just
Yeah, you
looping
saw that
around in
too?
circles on its own. Yeah.
Man, yeah. Hey, work on the maintenance there, boys. Watch
It's
out. It's going to
crazy.
be a little crazy there. Although it was a pretty good victory, if that was a victory. It's like just jump off
I
and
was
Yeah.
gonna
like
say we
there
need
it
to build
is.
that in the celebration.
Yeah.
That's pretty strong.
All right, Mike. We're gonna take a quick commercial break here, but hang tight because we still got more to talk to here in segment number 2. But for now, quick word from our sponsors over at Pit Fit and DPK Americas.
Are you looking to take the next step in your racing journey? Well, look no further than PitFit.
With 2 locations in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Indianapolis, Indiana, PitFit trains drivers all the way from grassroots level karting to IndyCar and NASCAR, with top-of-the-line personalized coaching to improve physical and cognitive fitness.
For more information on programs, check out PitFit on Instagram or Facebook today.
Brandon, why are there all these charges
stop.
for just over $200? I'm tired of all this branding business, okay? Branding this, branding that. Why are there all these expenses on AKR over $200? We know, okay? Take a walk with me. At Shop AKR, they have everything you need to start racing at a very cheap and affordable price. They have MXC rims, they got chains, electrical stands, tilt seats, they got MXCs. And if you didn't know, on top of that, any purchase in the continental US over $200, that's free shipping.
Hey, aren't you supposed to be in the AKR Anonymous meeting over there?
Dude, I'm doing a commercial.
Dude, we have no time. It's about to start.
Stop. We all love Shop AKR. Me? More than others. What do I get at Shop AKR?
MXC rims.
DPK Americas is bridging the gap between the US and the two-time world champion DPK Alonso Kart factory team in Europe.
In partnership with Team Binnick, they offer drivers a complete career path from the Americas to Europe that allows them to continue their driver development on both sides of the world, all underneath the DPK umbrella.
For more information, contact DPK Americas at max@drivensm.com to take the next step in your driver development journey today.
I gotta say, actually, I just got a text mid-commercial from Lennox Lockhart's dad, Miguel, talking about how he would invest in electric stuff. Because it's interesting. I think it would actually, the rebuild time obviously would be, you save money on the rebuilds compared to the engine packages. You'd lose it a little bit, like you said, Mike, on chassis flex. You'd probably run through chassis more, but I think there is a market for it. What do you think?
I mean, we're already swapping out chassis every season, right? So maybe that's
Exactly.
not it. I mean, yeah, if we think
What's
about
a few more
again,
chassis?
hey, some of these guys are doing every race. So, I mean, that goes kind of to the AEKC thing, right? That national kind of program for electric competition at a high level. I think that's where it's going to be very interesting to see how, again, the technology develops, it improves. We've already seen it in cars, right? I mean, just look at F1. Very first, it was the not the ERS, it was the early days where they had the
Kurs.
Kurs. Thank you. Yeah, right. So things keep getting better and lighter, and again, electric is part of the thing, right? For us to go, oh, I'm never going electric. Well, in 1970, you probably would have been able to roll that out and never have to see it. We're in there, right? Electric's part of the gig, and as karters, if we can embrace that and learn how to improve it and enjoy it and make it better, we're all gonna get better for it. But 100%, it's one of those things where you think about what do you spend the most money on when you have a kart? Tires, and that's never going to go away. But after that, it's going to be maybe components, tuning stuff, things like that. So the initial buy-in for the equipment is one thing, but once you have it, it might be a scenario where a few seasons down the road, it might not be a whole heck of a lot different than owning a shifter kart.
I'm here for any series that could make it work because I'm all about spec stuff. I think anytime you could make the driver, elevate their importance over everything else, I think that's always great. That wasn't the goal for this segment, obviously, but I wanted to bring that up because that was a pretty cool text. We have the Vegas SuperNats coming up soon, Mike, and you've been a guy that you've been involved in that race in one way or another throughout the years. I mean, not really on track design or input, but more on the back end, right? More on the safety side of thing. I mean, talk to me a little bit about your experience with the SKUSA guys and what you've been able to help out along the years with the track designs.
To be honest with you, those guys they're masters at it. They know they've been doing it so long, right? I mean, with 27th edition, and super karts, and those guys, they know how to put that stuff together. Not just SuperNats, but all the other street courses they've done over the years. So my input is literally it's kind of like this, just having a conversation, maybe over a beer or something like that. Like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And you kind of retain some of that, or like you bounce ideas off of. And that's not just me. I would say that's probably anybody in the industry that's put on or created tracks from scratch, right? And it's all about safety stuff. Like, they're not asking about it. It's not about where should the corners be and stuff like that. There's smarter people than I that do that and can do stuff, that they'll bring in. people in the industry that have done designs for a long time. But when you run a track for long enough, there are tendencies, there are things that you see. And so I think that's what it really comes down to. I mean, Neil Strickland over there at SKUSA has been doing such a phenomenal job for so many years. And yeah, again, it's just, we'll kind of like look at it. And again, being in the commentary tower with Kart Chaser and stuff like that, you get a little bit of a bird's eye view and kind of see what's going on and see stuff, and getting a chance to just for making a track safer, just like my 2 cents, like input.
Both.
Well,
Yeah, both.
I have a hard time keeping my trap shut when it comes to my opinions when it comes to track design. Like, I know that a lot of people weren't fans of last year's track as far as on paper. That was one of the best freaking racetracks we've had as far as the racing specifically, passing.
It was cool.
And while there are certainly elements that could be changed or different or whatever, you look at the floor plan or the area that they had to work with, and there's some fundamentals. There's some track design 101 stuff. Like, if you have a wide entry and a skinny exit, it forces a late apex. The last corner that we had last year provided some of the best racing, over under opportunities, last lap, last corner opportunities that just made it so exciting. The long straight was kind of, I mean, even when I did the test lap at the beginning, I was going around and I'm like, oh, this must be it. Nope, we're still going for a while, right? That was maybe a bit long. I think everybody can pretty much agree with that point. But the switchback, some of the other aspects that just created good racing. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's some, if you have a left that leads into a right and enough space to get there, anytime you force a driver to move over to the other side of the track to get the best line, and you got enough time and braking for the next person to get inside, automatically you're going to have better passing. So I'll just have like little 2 cents like that where I can't shut up about it. But as far as the safety side goes, it's pretty self-explanatory once you've been around it long enough where your potential impact zones are going to be. And it's not one of those where you start opening your trap and they're like, oh, we didn't know that. It's more of just like a reinforcing of what they already know. Like, did you see that? Yeah, we saw that. Or what do you think about this? And again, Neil and the crew have done such a phenomenal job over the years of creating safe racetracks for high speeds, temporary, that we all get a chance to go out there and play on and provide good racing. And I think the toughest thing is the more technical you make something, usually the racing is not as good because it's the technical part. It's to get around it is the challenge. The easier the track is sometimes it creates better racing because it's a little bit more wide open. It's not as hard, but the pack stays closer. So there's definitely a catch-22 to try to find that balance, to have some twisty bits and some tricky stuff, and then still have some maybe wide open, straightforward. One of my favorite, like that last corner last year, essentially unblockable opportunities. I think that's always great if you at least have one on those on the track.
So you're more on the kind of, I guess, racy side as opposed to make it more technical.
Yeah, and that's maybe because I'm not as good a driver as other people. So I've always found I'm maybe a little bit better racer. I love the chess match. That's why I love racing, is the chess match. Being me versus you and 3 other people or whatever all at the same time and trying to outsmart the next guy, outdrive the next guy. But you have to have both, right? Because you have to have something to separate the really great drivers from the good drivers, and then create that 5-person breakaway for the great racing. So having that balance is good. But yeah, Emery, if I was to choose, I would rather have a really great racetrack than one that's just a bunch of twisty bits.
I also think it's fitting for the biggest race of the year in North America or the world, having a track that provides good racing and making it who's the better racer, who's going to be the better and making decisions and moving his pawns, or moving your whatever, if you want to use chess analogies here. But yeah, I think I'd have to agree with Mike on this one as well.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. At the sharp end of the SuperNats, I don't think there's a question whether or not they're good drivers. Right? If you're at the front, you have got a great package. You're a great driver. You're in the right place, right time, good qualifying. We've talked about it's a body of work, but your talent is not in question if you're at the front, right? So you're a good driver. But if we don't give them the opportunity to display their racing abilities, because there are two different things. You can be a great driver and maybe not quite, like, you can be super fast, qualify, phenomenal, but once the chips are down and you guys start, dipping into the bag of tricks, you might be a little bit better off if you're a Norberg or a Formal or a Kremers or a, AJ Myers or Billy Muska. You've been doing this for a month of Sundays and you got a few more tricks than the rest of the guys. That's where it gets to be pretty damn fun to see, what those guys can do. Or even better, the new rook that comes through and surprise, I'm on the game and I can make things happen. That stuff I think is the most fun about SuperNats and any of these temporary courses.
Why do you think that is? I feel like every SuperNats, there's always one breakout rookie that's just really, really good.
I think it's because of the lack of opportunity to show it. The nice thing about temporary circuits is it's time to learn it yesterday. Like, you need to be fast right now. That was one of the things that I've actually only raced SuperNats once, and it was in 2019. Did Rock Vegas a couple times, but SuperNats only did once. And man, it was so much for me. Like, this is SuperNats. This is crazy. This is just take it all in. And again, better drivers than I could overcome that quicker. But it's a temporary circuit. The track evolves as it goes. You have to learn all the little bits and pieces of it. And case in point, you've got the voting that SKUSA did for the different type of track configurations. That's one thing if it's a temporary, it's going to be a purpose-built track. Like, for instance, let's say you got enough space to build K1 circuit as a flat, mind you, and not the 30-plus feet of elevation we have in bank corners, but a flat parking lot track. It's not K1 circuit anymore. It's different. Any track design you have on paper, it's one thing. How it races may evolve and change because of the way the surface is, where the rubber gets laid down, those curbs and things like that. So as a driver, it's learning that, as fast as possible, adapting to the changing conditions. Barriers get moved, lines get adjusted, debris becomes a thing, where that line you used to take all day, and now by the end, it's got a bunch of debris on it. Now you got to choke things up by the end of Super Sunday. So there's elements to it that you have to adapt to. And so I think if you are a natural driver that is gifted in learning stuff quickly, adapting to the equipment fast, you're going to excel at places like that more than someone that is really good on high grip, maybe CIK level tracks. And that's it, where it's round, medium, high speed, because on a street course, you're bound to have those low speed corners and just that different element you got to adapt to.
So you think we should be bringing more street courses into karting, or do you think it's fine kind of the way it is?
That's a good question. I do love street courses personally. I've usually done halfway decent on them because I do love that kind of adjustment and that kind of learning the track and figuring stuff out. And it starts with the track walk. So yeah, I'm a little biased. I really like that kind of stuff. But at the same token, it's being on my side of the fence. I know how much it takes to put on those kinds of things. It takes a lot of money to do. And the more you do those things, the more you got to charge. So I think there's a time and a place for them. And marquee events are great. Your Rock Island Grand Prix, your SuperNats, your Rock Vase, these different elements where it's like, whoa, that's different. There can be too much of a good thing, I think, and that by having maybe a few less of them just kind of puts those few up on a pedestal where they really do become those marquee, like, I got those bucket list kind of places that you got to go race on.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Never mind the fact you can change it every year too, right? You don't have to have the same one.
Yeah.
That's also very, very cool.
And
We've
what did
seen-
you think of? Yeah,
We've
sorry.
seen Rock,
go ahead.
I was going to say we've seen Rock do it in very recent memory at the Winter Tour. They change the layouts every single year. They've done the Pompano races. They did it in St. Pete, and it's a new layout every time, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it keeps it fresh. It's some people want to go to a racetrack because, man, I love that place. That's awesome. Or, hey, the racing is really good. The series is really good overall. I find that if it's a unique one-off deal, like a SuperNats or, a different track configuration for like Florida Winter Tour, that gives someone like me, maybe who doesn't race very often, that's a hell of a carrot. I'm going to go try this one-off configuration that I may not ever get a chance to try again, just because that looks cool. That looks like a race well. That'd be fun. Versus I'm going to go to Newcastle because I know the race is going to be awesome, right? You can stand by it. You're guaranteed. Newcastle also has the ability to do a bunch of different track configurations. And, CalSpeed always try to do, again, parking lot at CalSpeed, throw something new at it, whatever we can. We had different configuration all the time. But then on the other hand, you've got a K1 circuit where we've got a couple of different configurations that we can do, and you play to the strengths, and it's a different way of thinking. It's a different way of doing things. So there's pluses and minuses. Having something different all the time is cool, but there's something to be said for, really perfecting something and enjoying what you got on a really good circuit.
So what did you think of the voting process? Is that something that you would like to see continue, or do you think maybe the drivers kind of got carried away a little bit?
I think it was neat. I think it's cool to, again, I've always felt like customer feedback is a must for any industry. If you are listening to your customers, your step one to probably having a good package of whatever it is that you're doing, a good program. So I think that was really good. But we're, doesn't mean that customers know what the heck they're talking about. It's like,
Case in point, last year's layout not getting many votes.
It's if we had put Bristol up there, I'd have really been questioning everybody if they started voting for Bristol, right? But what looks good on paper to some people doesn't necessarily come to fruition as a good racetrack, right? So I do think that the voting aspect is good, but I think it needs to be steered. And again, the SKUSA people know what the heck they're doing. They can put together a good package with feedback or without. But still, I think listening to your customer base is extremely smart. So it doesn't hurt at all.
So,
Go ahead, Emery.
I was going to say, what do you think of this year's layout with the voting going down?
Track map's a track map until you get feet on the ground and go walk it and kind of see it go down and see what the surface is like. I've designed several tracks in my day, and some of them look really good on paper. And then I went out and tried it. And I'm like, that's crap. So, you kind of have to see how it works. And again, that's the benefit to SKUSA going out there early and seeing their plot of land that they get to play with and what they get to do and how they design it. On paper, I think we could have some really good racing. I think it's that you guys said it last week of the Mont Tremblant deal. I think
it's tough, right? Because you made a good point of you can take K1 circuit and do the same exact layout, but it's a different racetrack without the elevation. Mont Tremblant is
a lot of elevation.
A lot of elevation. You flatten it out. Now it has a totally different dynamic. So
think about that first complex right after the long straightaway of Mont Tremblant. I've watched the I think it's the Canadian championships that they have up there, and that track is freaking sweet. Watching those races, especially the 4 strokes, the drafting and the chess match and stuff like that. But you can't emulate that on a flat piece of land. Like, that's not the same. So again, what it looks like on paper versus what we get when we show up, I reserve judgment. Either way, doesn't mean it's going to be good, bad, or indifferent. But I think once you go out there and walk it, you can learn a lot with your feet going around that thing.
I think you made a good point of, we were talking about how there's always 1 or 2 rookies every year that are quick. For me, I always look at SuperNats and I'm like, you got to, grab the bull by the horns a little bit and just go for it. And I think that's why you see some rookies go out there and feel like they have nothing to lose and they send it versus a more experienced guy who takes the weekend to develop over time. And that's why we'll see a guy like Norberg maybe take the first couple of practices, the first 2 days, and not be as quick, and then he's always there at the end of the weekend versus a driver that just wants to go out there and bonsai, practice number 1. Is that how you've always kind of viewed it? Is SuperNats is this anybody's game sort of thing?
Well, 100%. The fact that it's a new track to everybody, it's your ability to learn it. I do think it's a little bit less, how much time you have under your belt, and really it comes down to comfort, in my opinion. I'm pretty comfortable in the go-kart, but I'll tell you this: when I was at the SuperNats in 2019, it was my first time racing an X30. I literally had like 4 sessions on an X30 prior to going there because I ran 100cc the whole time. And the last time I was in a 125 was a Leopard, back in my day. So getting back into a 125, I had learning that I had to do. I learned the new tire, and I just didn't get comfortable back then. Versus more recently, when I went to Rock Vegas, I was in the same package I'd been running the whole time, got comfortable right away. And I think if you see people break out or what have you, go back and look at how they were doing in those early practice sessions. They were probably comfortable right away. And so in the early sessions, whether it be that track walk or that opening session, if you're like, oh man, I got this. You're building off of, let's call it 75% comfort rate versus the next guy who's at 50%. You're starting ahead, like if you miss a session, that's why we talk about sessions and mechanicals being such a problem or such a big deal, or you have an incident, such a big deal, because you are building, it's the body of work, right? If you have a motor problem or you blow a motor, or you miss sessions, you lose that ability to get more comfortable, fine tune the setup, fine tune the package. And so for me, I think it's about, like you said, Ryan Norberg or Formal or those guys that this is their cup of tea. Like they are comfortable on street circuits. They can learn stuff very quickly, and they can put weight on that right rear tire, that outside rear tire going through a corner that everybody else is like lifting because they're not quite sure of. You got that kind of confidence. Also, little trick of the trade for some of these guys where you start building grip into it early, right? Don't go out there like with race setup for Sunday on their first session. You put a bloody rain setup sometimes on those things for session one just to keep it going the right way so he doesn't learn the track. I want to make sure this thing turns. I want to make sure I got some grip. I want confidence in the rear end. So if you got confidence, I think you're going to find those guys breaking out quicker.
What do you expect this SuperNats? Because we saw, and normally throughout a parking lot racetrack, right, especially a temporary one, rubber gets built up throughout the weekend. It gets better and better. Last year, it was one of the first times that I've seen a track really not get a whole lot of grip at the weekend. It got slightly faster, but even in the final, guys are still saying it's dusty out there. This year, got the new tire compounds. They're throwing down rubber better than I've ever seen in the last decade or so. Do you think that's going to change the dynamic for the SuperNats this year?
I mean, absolutely. If you could put black stuff down, right? We saw that Rock Vegas it was a couple years ago where so you could see the black laying down. When we were back at Rio versus when we were at whatever it was, I don't remember where F1 paddock is now. That place didn't lay the rubber down quite as much as when we went back to the Rio, and it just got black, right? There was a ton of rubber got laid down, and the amount of evolution the track had was a lot. 2021 was the last time we were at SuperNats at Las Vegas Motor Speedway in the same area. I don't know if it's the exact same lot, to be honest with you, but I think it's close. And I can't help but think of the Masters race there and how good that was. And over a long run, the kind of ebb and flow that we saw, and same thing with the senior stuff. So if it takes the rubber down, as you guys have been paying attention to karting a heck of a lot closer than I have, and so if this softer or this different tire compound lays the rubber down, I think that could really, really be interesting, because as the chassis adjustments change, you might see one chassis perform really well in qualifying, but by the time we get to the end of the races, there's other guys starting to come into play. It'd be interesting to see how it evolves.
What are you more of a fan of? Do you like the softer compound that lays down the rubber, or do you want a tire that kind of lasts longer, maybe doesn't throw down the rubber as much?
It depends on what we're talking about. I mean, if we're doing 206s, less grip better.
Yes.
Make the thing dance, right? If we're
Absolutely.
going fast, give me more grip. And also more grip means more physicality. While I like to say to my wife that I'm in good race shape, not shape in general. So while I'm a round shape, I think Tony Stewart called it front to back fat, not side to side fat. So I sit in the seat pretty good, and as long as I'm at the right weight, but I can roll for a while. And so I personally like the grip goes way high, and it's physicality, and I can get to the end, and I'm fresher late than some of the next guys. So I do like the higher grip. And man, there's something to be said about going 100% high grip, high speed, and getting done going, I put time in. That was tough. 206 though, lower speed, lower grip, dance it, chess match, draft. Yeah. Talladega, Daytona, and a 206. Actually, speaking of that, 100 cc's at K1 circuit, it's like Daytona, Talladega. It's momentum. It's chess match. It's 206s at Indy, at Newcastle, that kind of deal for a CKNA. You want like that same kind of feel, and you're in the pack, and you're trying to be not just you could go for the move, but if you do, you're going to lose 3 spots because no one's going to go with you. That kind of thing. That's what you see at K1 Circuit. It's a different element, and yeah. Anyway, kind of switch that whole thing around. Yeah,
No.
all over the place. But that's a hell of a lot of fun.
We gotta get Emery out there in the KA.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how well you can duck, buddy, but you got to get low.
Oh man, it's over, man. I was sitting here thinking, I was like, yeah, maybe this will solve my issue of kind of just not being kind of washed and just being able to strategize. But on the flip side, man, I got to find a way to like shrink myself about 3 inches. If I could be Alex's height, would be
There
great.
it is. I was waiting for it.
Hey, if you come from 5th in line, man, you got the draft. You don't have to lead all the laps, just the last one, right? Just gotta be smart. That's the chest. That's the chest.
Hey, downhill sections, we got it. Like just absolutely sending it. Uphill sections, gotta chug it on up.
Yeah, if I
Right,
was skinny,
right.
I think I'd be a weapon.
In more ways,
You already are a weapon. You really are. Yeah.
just watch this dude race rentals, man.
Oh my
It's a
god,
menace. It's a menace to society out
it's
here.
scary.
Okay.
He's too confident, overly confident.
Well,
I
hey guys,
actually
I do coaching, so I can help you out anytime. Just come on
I'll
down to
be
Circuit.
there.
We'll get you in the seat.
I'll be there.
Oh, man.
Hopefully, sometime soon. It's definitely a bucket list item, I think, for all of us after seeing it
100%.
open up and how cool it is. And I think the lights. You guys have lights there as well. I'm not mistaken,
100%,
Mike.
yeah.
So that'd
Yeah,
be
yeah,
that'd be cool, man.
Every night under lights. So basically, what happens is we open up at 9 and we go all the way to 9 with rentals. So basically, you've got open practice from 9 to 5, but at night the lights come on, and we got 2 different. We basically take the full track, we split them into 2. We got 2 tracks, a north and a south. Those things go nonstop, and we run under lights with rentals. And I mean, you guys have been under lights. It's a different program. It's really cool. And it's such a cool ambiance when you're under lights going racing. And we do that every single night out at K1 Circuit.
What have you seen from your rental demographic? I know this is kind of off topic from what we've been talking about, but so far, like in these first few months or the first little bit, how have you seen kind of the rentals flow through?
Nonstop. I think a lot of that is this thing's been on the to-do list and the calendar, the carrot's been out there for a long time. And so for sure it's been big. A lot of people coming out, want to check it out, want to be a part of it, want to see what the electric carts are all about, what the new K1 Circuit's all about. But what's really cool is that SoCal it's already a hotbed of karting, right? The arrive and drive market's huge from what CalSpeed had, and those guys are even chomping at the bit for something. And again, CalSpeed with the arrive and drive carts that we had there when I was running it, the racing was closed.
Wi-Fi went kapoof.
Did we just all crash out?
I think we all, because
Crazy.
yeah. Okay,
It was probably
so
fine
weird.
till I got here.
That was okay. I wasn't the only one that just completely lagged out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it went bye. So I saw 3 rotating circles. I was like, it's over.
It can't be good. Can't be good.
Oh man.
Well, I missed pretty much that entire answer. But
Well, the answer was basically that the karting is phenomenal down here, and arrive and drive, there's no shortage of them from CalSpeed. They've been chomping at the bit, so they're getting out here, and they're pretty damn surprised about the difference in the equipment. And yeah, when we start doing our race academy stuff and our league stuff, I think it's going to be pretty damn huge.
dude,
Solid.
we got to get some night racing national events over there. That's
Yeah,
gonna,
the tough thing about this part of the world too, when you're trying to do night stuff, is you either have to do it stupid early in the year or stupid late in the year, because like right now, we're light till 6:30, and we have to be shut down by 10. So you don't have a whole lot of time for night stuff. and that's what makes it a little bit tougher in that regard. It's not impossible, but yeah, it'd be a little bit more challenging. And then, of course, the weather. The best time to be able to do it at night would be in the early part of the year, which is typically when we start getting the R word from the sky, which I try not to say very often.
Rain.
KCF.
There it is. Yeah. Hopefully it jinxes you, not us.
Have you guys had any rain sessions over there yet?
Well, we've had some weather out here, but the rental carts don't run on them. We don't run at all with that stuff. The hard compound tire we have, it doesn't work. I actually was doing some testing on the full fleet, and it just started to sprinkle and then actually properly rain, and the cart just doesn't work. Just the hard compound just pushes. What was kind of cool about that, though, small story, was it's a mile-long circuit, so it wasn't working through turn 4, but when I turned around, I got all the way back to turn 11. The rain hadn't gotten there yet, so I was able to finish the test. Yeah, so that was kind of neat. But we don't run in the wet, and so far we haven't been open during a wet session. It did most of the rain when we were still pre-open.
Have you had a chance to see what the drainage is like?
I have.
What's it like?
It was good.
Yeah.
No, it's all joking aside. It's a lot of asphalt, so there's a lot of water and there's a ton of drainage underneath this place. We haven't had any big rain deals. Even I said it there for recently where all of our adjustments. Thank you, Caleb. Yeah, exactly. To test it out, see where we're at with that whole deal. But a ton of drainage built into this place. It's all over the place. California has you put what they call ribbon gutters in to kind of channel the water. But what I will say is that the rivers that you can sometimes see across tracks and things like that are nearly non-existent. So, kudos to Rocky Moran, who was the designer predominantly of this thing. I think she's going to hold, even with the banked corner, the Rocky Moran corner is 11 degrees. It's all like sideways on that thing. The drainage is really pretty good as far as going racing goes. I'll be curious to see what happens. We first have our competition carts hit some rain tire action going on. That's the only time you can say the R word is when you're saying rain tires, by the way, Caleb. Just so you're on the same page. I think the place will race pretty well. Again, a proper circuit, the asphalt's race grade, and I think that it can put on a hell of a show.
Well, Mike, we're getting to the end of the show here. We always give our guests the chance to go out there and kind of shout themselves out. Obviously on socials where we can find you, what you're up to, anything that we can expect from you here in the near future.
Full Caster podcast.
Appreciate that. Full Caster podcast. That's a nice plug. I appreciate you saying that. Derek Escobar and I do like to play with that a little bit. Don't know what we're doing for next year, but you guys can go check that out on all your different podcast stuff. K1 Circuit, it's a different animal for anybody here that has been to SoCal and got a chance to do some other tracks and been down here for a long time, done other racing. This is a world-class, purpose-built racetrack, and you get a chance to travel around doing different tracks around the country. It's got a little bit of everything with the elevation change, the high speed. It's nice to you. It's smooth, and I'm really, really excited as a diehard karter what this is going to do for the industry down here. And I'm really excited to get other people out here, try out the ePro kart, try out our track. I can't tell you how excited and thrilled I am to be a part of it, and thankful for the opportunity and to see a full season next year. I mean, guys, we barely scratched the surface on this thing. We're just getting started, and to see Tri-C karters out here regularly next year, SKUSA and Andy with the Challenge of the Americas. We're going racing the K1 circuit next year. The main building is going to get done, and it's just going to be the place to race here in California, I think. And what you guys get done, doing the Vegas thing, I say jump in the bus, jump on the plane, make it happen. Get down here. Let's go play at K1 Circuit. 7 days a week we're open. So come on here after.
I'm actually going to California during Christmas break this year for a family trip. So I'll be there.
You will. Come on, let's make it happen.
I'm just excited to have a reason to go to California.
Yeah,
I'm pumped. We don't get to go west very often.
Am I not reason enough?
No, you are.
So,
you are.
anyways,
That's on me.
Brutal.
Thank you,
Hey, I
Mike.
think
we gotta get you out here, man. We gotta get you guys out here and get the whole Kart Chaser crowd. We get done doing the announcement. We get done covering SuperNats. Let's get everybody down here to K1 Circuit, make it happen.
I'm
KC
down. Let's
Invitational.
move the flights back.
Hey,
A little bit.
you know a
I'll tell
guy.
Xander. I'll
Yeah,
tell
who,
Xander.
who, who needs to go to their 1:30 p.m. class on Monday, right?
I was gonna.
No.
I was
You're
gonna
sick.
say
Yeah, smart.
I can't speak anymore. Sorry.
Exactly. But
He's got
hey,
his
seriously,
speechless.
guys, appreciate you guys for having me on and getting a chance to talk about this cool opportunity everybody has, I think, in karting to be here at K1 Circuit and try it out. It's a different animal, and it's a cool addition, I think, to the industry. So thanks again for having me on.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mike.
Hey, we need to do a Casey Grid Talk times full caster podcast.
Let's go, baby. I love it.
Soon.
We'll make it happen. All right, Mike.
on.
Thank you so much for joining us here today. We're gonna do one more quick commercial break, and then we'll come back here and we'll close out the show, boys.
Are you looking to take the next step in your racing journey? Well, look no further than PitFit.
With 2 locations in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Indianapolis, Indiana, PitFit trains drivers all the way from grassroots level karting to IndyCar and NASCAR, with top-of-the-line personalized coaching to improve physical and cognitive fitness.
For more information on programs, check out PitFit on Instagram or Facebook today.
Brandon, why are there all these
All right,
charges
stop.
for just over $200?
I'm tired of all this branding business, okay? Branding this, branding that. Why are there all these expenses on AKR over $200? We know, okay? Take a walk with me. At Shop AKR, they have everything you need to start racing at a very cheap and affordable price. They have MXC rims, they got chains, electrical stands, tilt seats. They got MXCs, and if you didn't know, on top of that, any purchase in the continental U.S. over $200, that's free shipping.
Hey, aren't you supposed to be in the AKR Anonymous meeting over there?
Dude, I'm doing a commercial.
Dude, we have no time. It's about to start.
Stop. We all love Shop AKR. Me? More than others. What do I get at Shop AKR?
MXC rims.
DPK Americas is bridging the gap between the U.S. and the 2-time world champion DPK Alonso Kart factory team in Europe.
In partnership with Team Binnick, they offer drivers a complete career path from the Americas to Europe that allows them to continue their driver development on both sides of the world, all underneath the DPK umbrella.
For more information, contact DPK Americas at max@drivensm.com to take the next step in your driver development journey today.
All right, well, welcome back, boys, to Casey Grid Talk here. We're going to close out the show in a moment. Emery always decides to go red on the LEDs whenever he wants to close out the show.
It's prime time,
What is
baby.
What is this angle we got going on, boys?
There we go. Fire the producer.
Which is
Yeah. It's me, I fear.
What do you? How pumped are you guys for K1 Circuit? Because I mean, I just want to get out there already.
Very excited. Honestly, man, I mean, look, California is a great place. As it stands in karting the last 3 to 5 years, there really hasn't been much reason to go out there. But that changes with K1 Circuit. You know, I'm willing to get on a flight, fly 5.5 hours, maybe check out the San Diego Zoo while I'm around there. And yeah, no, I mean, what Mike's done has been awesome. I think what we've seen from the facility, the early returns in the Pro Kart Challenge and the Tri-C stuff has been really impressive. And I mean, I can't say that it fit me as a driver very well because I'd have to learn how to tuck really well. But it'd be a lot of fun racing, and I can't wait to see how it continues to develop.
Caleb?
I remember actually talking to Mike last year in Vegas, and I was telling him about how the progress was kind of going. He was like, man, we have one permit that we need, and once we get that, we're 3 months away from opening. And now, like a whole year later, they're open, and I think it's all testament to the hard work that he's done for that racetrack and all the hard work that's kind of gone into it with the idea of everything. And I think we all talked about it. My first, I would say, even experience in a go-kart was probably at a K1 Speed. And obviously, as some of you guys may know, my start in karting was a lot later than Alex and Emery's. They started when they were both younger. I started kind of late when I was like 17. Found it on my own, just in a very kind of crazy way. And now I'm sitting here, and I think the whole idea that I think they have at that place of bringing kids up through the ranks and putting butts in seats and more people and opening their eyes to what karting is, and that this is actually a business, a sport, and a cool hobby. It's an expensive one, but it's a cool hobby for sure. But yeah, I think Emery, you said it best, gives us a reason to go out to California here soon. I mean, California is great. The weather is great. But now that there's a state of the art facility out there, I think it's so exciting to see where we can go and how we as a country and karting can expand as well. So there's a lot of exciting things behind it, and I'm excited to see how it kind of all turns out here in the coming future.
The West Coast is growing. I mean, we have a lot
Yeah.
of tracks brewing up over there. I mean, even in central United States as well, Colorado, with many racetracks getting built over there. A couple already, out there and running well. We have the track in Vegas, like I mentioned earlier, coming up, and then K1. So I think we talked about the potential for a Western national. We talked about the potential for a lot of things to grow over there, and I think it's going to give a lot of reason for national level, series like USPKS, like Stars, like SKUSA to go out there and see what happens over on the West Coast. We've seen them do it with Utah many times. They've done CalSpeed in the past when that was a racetrack as well. So they're not, adverse to doing it. And I suspect, like Mike said, 2026 is probably the goal. And I would be shocked if we don't go there for at least one of the national series because of the amount of, popularity that it's risen to already with people wanting to go there and the hype around it with how cool of a racetrack it looks and the racing that we've seen. So I'm incredibly excited. I think the track looks awesome. I've seen obviously Buddy Vasquez on board from it. The KA looks great. So I'm excited for the racing. I'm excited for a lot of things. But that being said, boys, that's gonna wrap up episode 33 of
I don't want it to end, man.
Grid Talk. I don't want it to end either, man. But we got the Yankees game going on right now. I don't
Hey
know what
man,
the score
shout out
is.
Dodgers, man. Shout out Dodgers. I'm actually, this is so crazy,
Boo!
but I'm a Dodgers fan. Shohei
Bandwagon.
Ohtani, that's all I know. Mookie Betts. Yeah. Shout out
Bandwagon.
Dodgers. No, actually, funny enough, I'm actually a Dodgers fan because movie 42 with Chadwick Boseman, the Jackie Robinson story, came out like when I was 10, I think, and ever since then I've been a diehard Dodgers fan because
Before
reminds me of
LA, where
baseball.
were the Dodgers?
Brooklyn,
All
bro.
right, cool.
Avi, it's in the movie, bro. Come on now, I know my stuff. I actually I have a Dodgers hat that's somewhere around my house, but yeah.
Is it for PacSun?
No, it's my uncle actually brought it for me from LA, and it has my last name, has a Californian logo, even though I'm a big Texas guy, as you can see in the back.
I was gonna say that. Look,
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, but it makes sense. Shout out Texas.
Hey. You've defeated the bandwagon allegations, but this is going against the brand, man. Like I expected, I expected Astros first and
No,
foremost.
Rangers.
Oh, they're cheaters,
Alright.
bro. They
Yeah.
they
We don't
hang on
do
trash cans.
cheaters, but
I
the
don't
Rangers,
do cheaters, bro.
you got to go at least with the
Rangers, man.
No, I hate Dallas, so no.
Damn,
I hate
that's
Dallas,
crazy.
but shout out Texas, shout out DKC, shout out NTK, shout out all my Texas tracks. Yeah, besides that, shout out
Shout out
Dodgers.
Cookout, man. Love
Shout out Cookout. Shout out Whataburger.
Whataburger is real, very real.
I want a Dr Pepper float.
The hot ketchup that they have, the spicy ketchup, it's different.
It is. I actually have a whole bottle of it in my fridge, so shout out Texas, man.
Maybe that should be our last place punishment for fantasy.
What?
In the spicy ketchup, taking like a certain amount of spicy ketchup and drinking it.
It's not even spicy. I could do that.
A full cup of it?
You never had like ketchup shots?
I've had shots. I haven't had a cup.
What? All right. Hey, intramural games. I got suspended, so wish me luck tonight.
What are we suspended for, bro?
So I had a pickleball game that fell at the same time as one of our shows, so I obviously didn't go to the pickleball game. A&M charged me $5. I didn't pay it, and then we're going through our roster today with me and my buddies. and next to my name it says Caleb Vieska suspended, and I was like, dang, they don't want us to win, bro. Like, I'm suspended from my intramural game tonight. And then I go in, pay my $5, and they're like, all right, you're not suspended anymore. If it happens again, like whatever, you are going to be suspended for a whole game. So, anyways, hey, me and the gang, that's our team name. First game of playoffs tonight. We'll get it done. Yeah,
Oh my God.
we're playing some freshmen, so
He might get suspended for another reason.
may catch some dubs
Well,
later. I don't know. We'll see.
Dodgers up 2-1 right now, so
Let's go.
I'm gonna cry.
They need to
It's over.
lose so they can win it back in LA.
No. Right
You
now,
know-
the Yankees
you
lost
know-
their pinstripes, dude.
Aaron Judge is currently batting a worse average than Lou Gehrig.
0.09.
He is batting a worse average than Lou Gehrig in 1939. If you know, you know.
That's crazy.
I do know. I saw that stat right before we joined the show, and I was like, man,
Brutal.
it's
Absolute.
rough.
It's the cold. It is the dry spell of all dry spells.
But we're gonna make a comeback. I promise.
Should we do like a Casey Grid Talk sports podcast one night and just talk about sports and not karting? That'd be kind
I
of cool.
feel like it'd be really cool until Big Red kills us.
Yeah, that would. Little
That'll
foreshadowing in the
that'll be
background here, Emery.
that'll be the show that we like have call-ins, and we can have people talk about their sports takes. For sure.
Have Josh Conquer on to talk about how bad the Bulls are.
Chicago Bulls.
That's what I'm saying.
Shout out Josh Conquer. All right, that's gonna be the end of this episode. Caleb's got an intramural game. I got a Yankees game to watch. For those of you watching back at home, thank you for tuning into Casey Grid Talk, episode number 33. Pardon the sports conversations we always tend to have in the beginning.
That
and
was
end
a
of
waste
these.
of 5 minutes. I'm so sorry.
It's not a waste, all right? We learned that you guys are better, and that's better. So, thank you guys for watching Casey Grid Talk. For myself, Alexander Searle, and my two wonderful co-hosts, Emery Lida and Caleb Vieska. We'll see you guys next Tuesday.
End it. Hurry up.
It's loading.
I know.
It's loading.